Welcome, everybody. It's CodePen Radio number 423. Oh, my gosh. Incredible stuff. I have Stephen Shaw here with me.
What's up?
Yeah, we've been talking about the 2.0 editor a whole bunch. Of course we are. In fact, that whole big pause we took on CodePen Radio generally was just to get ready. And now it's just so exciting because we're in public beta and we can talk about all these features.
And
some of them are still kind of, are in flux, and this one is too. Not that it's going to change fundamentally, we just have bigger aspirations, and those are exciting things to talk about too. Anyway, this whole episode is going to be about the concept of templates. Templates aren't new around here.
Probably one of the oldest features we have hanging around.
Yeah, perhaps. It's funny because it's so related to other stuff. It's like there's a fork button. That's very related to a template because you can just be on a pen and hit fork and now you own a copy of it. Isn't that kind of like a template? Sort of. But it was always treated a little bit differently because a fork is marked as a fork in the database. And it has some implications of that. Some pens just get tons and tons and tons of forks, and they're just, noted that way. So if we're looking at a pen and it's a fork, it was kind of useful for us to be oh, maybe before we pick this pen, we should go look at what the parent is, because maybe it's just somebody else's, and then this pen probably shouldn't be picked. The original should be, and things like that. You can sort and remove forks. I think forks are by default removed from search, global search, just because you don't want to see 30 of the same thing. Because forks are pretty heavily used, you can always remove that filter, but it's just there's some defaults and stuff. What a template does is when you start a pen with a template, it's not saved yet. And when you do save it, it will be a new pen. It will not be a fork. That's the intention of it. And that exists in the classic editor. So, and the new editor,
and it's a choice that the
way.
pen editor, the pen owner gets to make. They mark their pen as a template saying, hey, use this. This is a good starting point for doing whatever it's trying to accomplish.
And it was probably more heavily used from one account. Somebody would make their own template and then they would use their own template. So people would set up I use GreenSock sometimes, and when I do that, I want to click my template for GreenSock that loads it up in all the ways that I want it loaded up. Maybe the plugins that I use for it and the HTML structure that I use for it. And that the UI helped that along, because there used to be this little drop down where you'd pick a template from that, right from kind of the sidebar of the website, and they only listed yours. So it was kind of the point of it was you make your templates. It was always kind of true that if you visited a pen, not always, but for a long time, that if you visited a template, you just got there somehow because that owner, like Shaw said, was had marked it as a template, that there's a button that's oh, you can use this too. There's nothing preventing you from using another pen as a template. And actually, if you're a little handy with the URL structure, really, literally any pen can be a template, whether it's marked as a template or not. I think all those things are still true, but for the 2.0 editor, we wanted to give templates a bit of an upgrade, because I think they're kind of more important now. Now that there's more stuff you can do with pens, it's a useful way to teach somebody. I feel like you're the kind of person, which is kind of everybody, who reads a blog post and scrolls down and finds just the block of code. You're just show me the code. I don't want to read. Some people are the templates are that in a way. I don't want to read about how these features work. Just show me the thing that's already working, and then I can get it. It's kind of a learning mechanism that happens pretty quickly. Not to mention, a template can just be I don't know, this is already pretty close to what I'm trying to build, and we're hoping that you build more real things, quote, I'm just using the word real, you can deploy websites and stuff now. I think we'll have to talk about that on the podcast more, but what if there was a portfolio website? We have some of those kind of things in templates already. What if you just use that as a template, put in your information, deployed it, and now you have a portfolio website? I think that's pretty compelling. So our goal with templates is just to have a lot more of them. And so we do, We don't have like an incredible library of thousands of them that I hope we do at some point, and y'all can help with that if you feel so inclined, but we'll be doing some of that work as well. But like, okay, we should just have more of them because they're pretty cool, because you get more value out of CodePen if that's how you roll. You know, you don't always want to start from that blank scratch screen. You can start with something that's already kind of doing pretty close what you want it to do. Compelling, I think. Yeah, so one of the things, this is just like a UI change, and it's not deeply functional, but I think it matters a whole heck of a lot, is that you couldn't pick a template after already getting to the editor, and so many people just go right to the editor. We know that's true because people really like that pen.new domain that goes right to the editor. I should mention pen.new/2 goes right to the new editor. But once you are there in the classic editor, there's not much you can do about that. You're not picking a template anymore. You're just there. Whereas the new editor, we're like, there's so much muscle memory for jumping right to the pen, but you haven't actually done anything yet. Maybe you should be able to pick a template now, just after getting there, before you've done any work. Now you can pick a template. And so in the bottom left corner, as you go to the new editor, it'll say templates, and it'll list 3 templates. And the 3 that it's shown, if you don't already own any, are our templates. And we kind of control which 3 you're seeing there. And we just put some ones there for now that we think are like pretty common things that people need to do. One of them is use our classic block, which we've talked about before, that like mimics what old CodePen is like quite a bit. One of them is React, because a lot of people do that, and it's actually kind of different how you do it in the new editor. And some things like that. There's like a blank template that's like, you don't want to use the classic block, but you want to start pretty raw. That's fine too. But you don't have to start with those 3. We're just showing you 3 because, I don't know, there's only limited room in the world. We call it screen real estate sometimes. Have you heard of that term? Anyway, right. But there's a button, Shaw put it there, surely, that says browse. You click it. It opens a modal dialog box and shows you a bunch more templates. It shows you a bunch of more of our templates, the official templates, but there's also a possibility that shows all of your templates. And I do think, correct, is this true, Stephen? If you've made some templates, those 3 in the bottom left actually default to yours.
By default, we're going to show the official templates, but once you've selected one of your options here, you'll see those as the defaults down there.
Sure, I see. Yeah. Cool. So there's your personal templates, of which you might have 0, or you might have many, 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 depending on how you like to roll. Eventually, we'd like to show you some community templates as well. We're not quite there yet. There just needs to be more of them and people kind of embracing that concept. But then there's bookmarked ones too. So let's say you have the official ones that you like, or your own templates that you like. All you have to do is bookmark stuff, which is this whole concept on CodePen of getting easier ways to get back to your bookmarks. You can bookmark templates too to make kind of a more curated set of the templates that you like, and it makes it easy to get back to those as well. So that's the UI of it. And so you can go right to the new editor, pick a template and go. It'll replace what's in there because you haven't done any work yet. It'll replace what's in the editor with what's going on in the template. After you've started coding and stuff and saved, that kind of goes away. You can't start from a template anymore, but you probably don't want to because you already started coding, so you don't want to necessarily override it. But if you want to get back to the
templates, you can pull them up in the Omnibar. Just type in templates and you'll get an option to browse them.
Oh, how nice.
So you can get there and start a new pin, but it's not going to affect your current pin.
Right.
So it'll just take you out of that pin.
Yeah, pretty satisfying. Stephen also had this great idea that has been live for a while now, that on the homepage of CodePen, if you click, there's always that in the sidebar. It's like make a new pen or make a project or a collection or whatever. If you click create at the top, it takes you to a new special page we're calling the guess what create page. Guess what URL it is /create. And it's kind of an alternative homepage that you might even prefer, that has like a list of the last pens you've touched, because there's a good chance that you're just trying to get back to something that you were just doing. And right there on the same page too is all the templates. So again, your bookmark templates, your templates that you own, which we call personal templates, and the official templates are right there. So that create page is just kind of a more of a launching pad for like, what am I trying to do right now? Okay, rock and roll. Yeah, I should say, like, there are a bunch of official templates in there. You know, there's ones that the team CodePen has made, like the React one and stuff. There's a bunch of Vue ones for whatever reason. I just think our Vue block is really cool right now, because it's not just Vue, it's Vue and Vite, and that unlocks some possibilities and stuff with having like more data and looping through stuff and all that. I kind of want to mention, I'm all like excited that that Vite can do globbing, if you know what I mean by that. It's like a node side thing where you say like, could you go find all the files that match this template kind of thing, and pull them in and make that kind of a global variable that I can use. So there's a Vue template I worked on recently, actually for some of these short videos that we're doing, that just pull in all the markdown files from a folder and build a site out of that. That's a great template, because it's like you might like forget how globbing works, or, you know, there's a little helper in there for helping with the front matter of your markdown files and things like that. That's just a nice template. I made a template. Actually, I haven't even finished this, but this is why I'm excited about it, and we're podcasting about it. I made like subscribe.shoptalkshow.com, and it's hosted on CodePen because we have deployment now, and it's just a tiny little landing page kind of site that you see people put in their social media profiles and things. Are these link tree things like, oh, I only get one URL on my Instagram profile, for example, but I actually have a personal website, and I have a YouTube channel, and I have a Patreon and stuff like that. All those links are important. So they call these little personal link tree websites. This would be a nice template. And I haven't quite finished it yet, but I think there'd be why isn't it, you want one of these? Come to CodePen, fork our template, put in your URLs, hit deploy, and now you have a link tree website that you can map to a subdomain or regular domain or whatever. I think that's really satisfying, and I wish we had tons more of those, but of course we're working on them all the time. So what else, Steven?
So when you're on like the create page or the browse page, you'll see like this large use template button that helps show you that this pen is a template. You can use it, but even when you're just looking around the site and looking like at some of your pins, if you let me filter down to templates here, and you can still see that there's a little marker, that little template icon in the bottom left of it, that you can hover over and use it. So if you're looking at somebody's profile and they have some templates, you'll be able to see and use those.
So you'll see that because they've marked that pen as a template. Their intention always was to make a template. And how do you make a pen a template?
It's very easy. It's just a little checkbox, and we even have it directly under controls. It's the second thing there under pin settings, and you can check that. And
it's as easy as pushing a button.
Mm-hmm. And whenever it's saved, whenever that template setting is on, right next to the author name in the pin header is going to be some options. First one is just use the template, but then there's a little drop down next to it that lets you copy the URL, make it your default template, or adjust some additional settings if you're the owner. And that makes it really easy when you're on a pin and it's a template to just get started with that. And if you really, really like it, you can make it your default.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. I do like that share thing too, though. It gives you this nice URL that you could share with anybody that allows them to open this particular pen, but their own copy of it, their own unsaved copy that they could do something with. I think that's extra relevant for companies that use CodePen that are like, hey, check out this like charting library we have, or search library, or UI library, or something like that, that's a nice place to send people to, because it can be all pre-configured with that type of stuff, and then users can hit save and play around and whatever. So being able to share a template URL, it doesn't like bring them to a place where they can hit a button and then use that template. It just immediately uses that template, which is quite satisfying. It looks like you have some templates of your own, huh?
Yeah. Well, this is actually one on the CodePen templates that you'll find, a GSAP starter template, where it's just using our packages plugin to import and register everything. It's a little overboard because it's registering literally every GSAP plugin that there is. So this might be a little maximalist, but it's a good starting point if you're gonna use GSAP, and then you can copy that URL and you'll get started with that same code.
Pretty satisfying for stuff that uses packages or uses a particular combination of blocks. As if it's like, I don't know, it's not particularly rare to use kind of a bunch of blocks, I find. And you might have your own opinions, of course. So I think on my default, I can't remember what's all in my default template just offhand, but definitely prettier is in there. Prettier being a formatter. So as soon as you hit save, it's formatting the code of all the files that match it. I think that's pretty satisfying to have in there. But let's say you like always use Sass. A ton of our users do that. You could add the Sass block, add the prettier block, add the Babel block. You could add linters and things like that. You could kind of have a whole bunch of blocks going on. And then you're pretty happy with that. You save it. You make it as, you could just call it like my starter template or something. And then you'll have that available to you on the create page and in that bottom left corner when you come to the new editor and things like that. But you can kind of take it to the next level, which we never had in the original editor. We probably should have. What we had in the classic editor was like, not all users knew this, but there was a global setting where you could go in and be like, what do you want as your default CSS processor or something, and that you could set Sass in there. And that's fine, but it really wasn't a complete template. You couldn't set any default code. There was a bunch of settings that you couldn't set. So that's nice, and that's still there for the classic editor. It was just pretty limited. What it probably should have been all along is just point this thing at a pen that's already set up how you like it and then use that. That probably would have saved us all kinds of grief. Well, this served its time, but live and learn, you know? So now I think we made the better choice now. Do what Stephen was just doing, which is set up a bunch of stuff that's just exactly how you like it. Maybe it's prettier, maybe it's the classic block, maybe it's processors like Less or Babel or Tailwind or whatever else. This is the way I like it. And then you have this choice. One single pen can be, and we've already said what it is, your default template. And so as soon as a pen is a template, it has to be a template first, then there's that little control, and you have various places you can do this, in the Omnibar, in the little drop down, in settings, and then you won't have any trouble finding it. You can make that particular pen your default template. That way, when you hit the new pen editor, by just clicking the button on the homepage, going to pen.new/2, using the user menu link to get there, however you get there, and it will remind you that it's using this pen, but it's going to use that pen as the default. And I think that's very satisfying for a lot of people, including myself. Like, give it exactly how I want. Because we're going to get feedback, and this is okay. We'll help any users that has this feedback is like, I don't like that default CSS you put in there. I don't want it there. I wish it wasn't there. Or I wish different code was there. Or I don't like the HTML that you have in there. I don't want to see any HTML. Or I want to see different HTML that links up my favorite fonts or something like that. That's all fine. And it really is a low effort thing, I think, to just make a pen real quick, get it how you want it, and then make it as your default template. It doesn't take long, and it can be adjusted at any time. And now CodePen is exactly yours. It can be just how you want it.
Yeah, and this is definitely a good thing for people who are coming into 2.0 from the classic editor who really don't want anything in any of the panes. If you are, if you just want the absolute minimalist experience, there is a template in there. If you're browsing the official templates, there's one called Blank Classic. If you
Blank
go
Classic.
and use that, I'll actually click into this one because to show it. And the only difference here is it's using the classic block in there, so it's index.pin.html, which means you're only dealing with the body, and we've automatically linked up the CSS and the JS. And then if you make that your default, every time you land on the new editor, it's going to be just like that.
Right.
And so if you've got minimal UI toggled on, we've got a video about this, but it's almost identical to the classic editor. You can even set the editors up top if that's the way you like it. And,
arguably, there's even more space. I'd say it's almost even more minimal than the old editor was. So if you're like, there's too much stuff in the new editor, you're like, there's actually less if you set it up correctly. But okay.
Yes.
Not to be all salty, but it's just how we are sometimes. You get a lot of feedback. When you get feedback as a product owner, when the answer to that feedback is like, just poke around a little bit, you'll get there, I promise. It can be pretty satisfying. Minimal UI was like a big win. A lot of people really, really like it. I do like it too. I like how minimal it can get. But at the time we were creating it, I thought it was more like just like, we have to have presentation mode because we had that in the old editor. So like this is basically presentation mode, but without having to leave the URL that you're on. All these old views on CodePen were URLs: full page view, details view, debug view, live view, presentation mode. All these things were different URLs, and different URLs are just weird to maintain. The whole page has got to reload. It just never should have been done that way, frankly. And now it's not. So the editor of a pen has one URL, and you can share it in that state, and you can and then templates is kind of part of that story too. But I think that's very satisfying, and you can share it in minimal UI too, and presentation mode, yada yada. That's another topic exactly. But I guess I'm kind of surprised at how popular minimal UI is. I kind of like having all the controls and stuff around, but that's just because
But it depends on your screen size. It depends on what features you're using. Once you have the blocks and files set up the way you want them, you can close the sidebar so that it's not taking up as much space.
Totally.
But if you just want to focus on the code, you can even kill the preview too, and you've got a massive area to drop your code in.
So we're showing you all this view stuff. Well, we should be also mentioning that your template doesn't store this stuff. Like what Stephen is looking at right now, for those just listening to audio, he's got the preview totally turned off. He's got minimal UI mode turned on. He's just looking at files one at a time. It's a really kind of compelling, cool way to look at CodePen. But if you saved your template like this, even made it your default template, when you click onto your default template, it's not necessarily going to look exactly like this. UI is more of a state that you get yourself into. Now, some of that stuff is bookmarkable. Like you can click this link on a save pen that says copy link with layout. You could bookmark that URL, and then you would get back to the UI just in that state. It could even have template stuff included in that URL. That's a little bit more of an advanced feature, I guess. Just know that your UI state doesn't save with your template, and it's kind of on purpose because it's like, I don't necessarily need to get right back to that. There's things we can improve in the future about remembering what state you're in and stuff, but I'm not sure that everybody wants to look at exactly what you want to look at when you use a template. So it's more of a thing. It shouldn't really take that much time, especially with our Omnibar feature, to get into the UI state that you want to get in. I should also mention that because of the different set of limitations for the new editor, that some templates are like more available to you than others, although they're all available for you to look at and to play with. You just, like, for example, more advanced templates, like something that's like more of a blog or portfolio or one that uses a bunch of images in the sidebar and stuff, what we call binary files. Even if you're a free user, you can load up that template and you can play with that template. But when you go to save it, CodePen's going to warn you like, hey, this is like above and beyond what your plan supports. So hopefully that's not like desperately a bummer. Hope, we kind of warn against that the best that we can. But yeah, if you're on a free account and you're using a template with just tons and tons of files, it's not going to let you save that and kind of get around the limitations of your plan. That's a limitation of your plan, though, and nothing else, really. So, of course, what we want you to do is upgrade because we're a business, and that's how we, buy the groceries.
And it's super easy to do in the editor. You'll have prompts to be able to do that and upgrade if you
it's
really want to.
Of course, it's better than it ever was because we're just amazing developers. That's the real reason, I guess. But yeah, what he's saying is that you don't have to leave. It's not like you have to be like, oh, I was playing around with this and now I can't save it. So am I just screwed? No, you're not screwed. You can upgrade through a modal that just upgrades. Then you can save it and you're off to the races. I think that's an important kind of business concept, actually. It's important to me that there's a moment where someone decides that paying for your product is worth it. And that they're able to do that in the moment. They're like, okay, now's the time. I guess I'm ready for that. But they don't lose any work. They don't lose the flow that they're in. It's not a complicated process. We hem and haw about every single thing that we have to ask for. If I could just, whatever, if I could retina scan you to charge your credit card, I would. I mean, not to be weird, but my goal is low friction is the point,
Just tap your card on your laptop. That's what we want.
Just tap it in, that's what I want. So I guess that's all we have to say. Templates are pretty cool. Like everything. I wish we had 1,000 blocks. I wish we had 1,000 templates, all this stuff, but that stuff's going to come in time.
I mean, with user created templates, we do have thousands and thousands. They're just not available on the create page yet. But if you have authors that you like, people that you follow, you'll see those come up as templates and be able to use them from there.
Them. That way you'll just have access to them forever. Okay, lovely. Thanks for showing this off, Stephen. Hopefully that was good for all you in the car too. If you're in the car, just get into the office.
Eyes on the road.
Check it out. Yeah. All right. Until next time.
Bye.